Well, welcome back to Snetterton, everybody. We've got our fourth and final race coming up for you for the Focus Cup Championship here on the 300 circuit. The weather has continually improved as the afternoon has gone on. It's warmed up a little bit. There's been a few more bits of sun poking their way through the clouds, albeit it does seem to have now, in the last sort of 10 or 15 minutes, clouded up a little bit more. There's still this breeze as well. It still feels slightly chillier, but it's about 3 or 4 degrees warmer than it was yesterday, and even a couple of degrees warmer than it was earlier on today as the cars make their way onto the grid for this final 15-minute race of the weekend. We've seen 4 races here, rounds 3, 4, 5 and 6 of the championship. The next couple of rounds will take place up at Alton Park for rounds 7 and 8 of the championship, the Supercar Pageant meeting up there in Cheshire on the 20th of June. Then they'll be on to Anglesey and the Coastal Circuit in July, the 18th and 19th of July, for what will be there 4 races, 9, 10, 11 and 12 of the championship, and then up to Croft in North Yorkshire in August for a further 4 races, and then I'll be at Brands Hatch for the final couple of races of the season in September, 19th and 20th of September. It's an early finish to the championship season this year. This grid will see, if you weren't joining us for the races earlier on, the petrol class cars, class 1 cars, the ST250s with about 300 brake horsepower, they all start at the front of the grid. Then there's a couple of rows gap before we then see the class 2 cars, which are the 2-litre TDCi diesel engine cars, which produce about 180 brake horsepower, something like that. They all go off when the red lights go out, and the way that this grid is formed is based on the results from earlier on today, but with each batch of 6 getting reversed. So in other words, the top 6 get reversed, then 7th through to 12th get reversed, and then 13th through to 18th get reversed, and that's for each one of the classes. So each batch of 6 in class 1, each batch of 6 in class 2. So if you finish 6th, you'll start on pole in your class, is the way that it works. I can guide you through the grid as and when they head off on their formation lap, which will be any second now, because you can see the green flag is being waved on the rostrum, and the cars now start to work their way around the Snetterton 300 circuit for the final time today. And we can see as to whether we might end up with a different winner over this weekend, because we've had 2 wins for Ali Topley, we've had a single win for John Baker in the petrol class, and in the diesel class we've had 3 different winners. We've seen Adam Winter win, we've seen Lewis Clark win, we've seen Ian Howard win. So 3 different winners in the diesel class. Let me guide you through the grid then, the way that they line up for this final race of the weekend. Mark McCann starts on pole position. He's got Craig Appleton for company on the front row of the grid. It's Simon Walton and Simon Langford, the 2 Simons that line up on row number 2. And row 3 of the grid is Ian Mitchell and Ali Topley, who sit there on row number 3. Row 4 of the grid is Ian Graham and Shields Bergstrom. And then as we head to row 5 of the grid, that's the last of the petrol engine cars, John Baker, and alongside him will be Neville Voss, who in reality becomes the pole sitter for the diesel category. They're shown on the same row, but there will be a 2-row gap between the pair of them. Jake Critchley is next up, and Macaulay Underwood, he will be joined on that row of the grid, before we then see Adam Winter and Andrew Mitchell. Next up is where we see Ian Howard. He won the race earlier on today. He's got Matt Croft for company on row number 8, and row 9 of the grid is Cameron Ferraro Mackenzie and Abby Walton. Then it's Charlie Hall and Kevin Taylor-Beebe, before we see Rich Hall line up alongside Mark Reed, who's had a few car woes this weekend, so hopefully he'll have a trouble-free race. Lewis Clark, watch out for the number 17 car off the back of the grid, arguably one of the quicker drivers, a 3-times champion. He's got Sarah Hall for company at the tail end of the order, but watch out for that 17 car. If it is fully fixed, he should charge his way through the order, and it'd be interesting to see how far in 15 minutes he can work his way up through the order. So we shall wait and see. Now there is the black and the gold car. That's Neville Voss. He will be the pole sitter in reality for the diesel class cars, and I'm just waiting to see, do we definitely have, couldn't quite see though before the shot changed, the number 17 car at the tail end of the field, and if we do, is it still the green and orange car which Lewis Clark has raced all weekend, or has he hopped into one of the spare cars which are available to drivers? So there's Abby Walton. Oh, I just missed the shot again, so again couldn't quite see whether he is at the back of the field. I hope so, because it'd be good to see him charge his way through the order. Now in the races earlier on today, we were getting sort of 7 laps out of the racing, 6 to 7 laps, because it's a 300 circuit. It's taking a couple of minutes for these cars and a bit longer to do the laps, certainly in the diesel class cars. The petrols of course are that little bit quicker, but we should get probably 7 laps out of this one, possibly 8 at the very, very most, if it stays green all of the way and we don't have any incidents. Right, I can see at the back of the field, yes, it is a green and an orange car, which means that it is the same car that failed Lewis Clark earlier on when he retired out on circuit. They have been able to repair at that car, so well done to the Focus Cup team for ensuring that the 3 times champion, twice in the diesel class and last year in the petrol class, that number 17 car is there. Yep, there it is now. So Lewis Clark has made it there, so watch out for him because he should make some progress, but we'll have to wait and see how far up the order the 3 times Focus Cup champion can get, who steps back from the petrol class back to the diesel class this year. And he was telling me earlier on he's hoping he can do the full season. He's not entirely sure because at the moment, yes, 2026 is a season he wants to do well at, but he's already focused on 2027 and where that might bring him in terms of championships to race in for next year. So let's see if he can put in a stellar performance here. So Mark McCann sitting there on the front row of the grid, largely black with some yellow flashes. He's got the light green and black car of Craig Appleton sitting alongside. It's black and light blue for Simon Walton on row 2, alongside the white car with the Union flag livery to it of Simon Langford. And row 3 of the grid, it's sort of red and black and white for Ian Mitchell, alongside the white and black and yellow car of number 1, which is Ali Topley. That gives you the colours on the front few rows of the grid. And for the diesels, Neville Voss, it's gold and grey, and he's got Jake Critchley alongside, which is largely white, but it's got some light blue and some red flashes to it, the front 2 cars in the diesel category. So we've got 15 minutes on the clock. We are going to see the green flag waved at the tail end of the order, then the 5-second board will be held aloft by the marshals on the starters gantry. And then, once the red lights have gone out, we'll be away and racing for the final time this weekend in the Focus Cup Championship. So round 6 of the 2026 Focus Cup Championship about to get underway here at Snetterton. Red lights come on the gantry, the revs rise, and as the lights go out, it is a good start from pole position for Mark McCann. Craig Appleton was well away as well. Simon Walton is drawing himself alongside, though, in what is going to be potentially second place for the number 2 car when they head up towards Ritchie's, because he's got the inside line and he has made it through. Simon Walton, the man behind the championship, moves up into second place ahead of Craig Appleton. There's a spin in the order, and that's John Baker, who is off and I'm afraid into the barriers. Collects Ian Graham as well, but John Baker has had a significant impact with the barriers. That has caused a huge amount of damage to the front end of his car. Everybody else, I think, safely was through and past that, but that is surely going to bring about a safety car with that car stricken there, because there's no way he can drive that car out of harm's way, and that might have affected the barriers as well, where he made contact. So there is poor old John Baker, who retired from the race earlier on following a bit of contact, but I think that was cold rears that just caught him out there, and with that car stricken there, that means safety car, I'm afraid, is going to come out. I've got to say, everybody did superbly well, because unfortunately with John Baker going into the barrier and then bouncing back out again, that caused Ian Graham to sort of spin across the middle of the pack right in front of the diesel cars, the Class 2 cars, and I think, as far as I could tell, nobody made contact and everybody just about avoided each other, so that would have had a big bottleneck effect, but they all were able to avoid that incident. So whilst we remain under safety car, we should probably be able to have a quick look at the replay. So we need to keep our eye on the dark blue and lighter blue car that's at the tail end of this particular one, because Ian Graham started in 7th place and the car of John Baker started in 9th. So there's John Baker, he's round the outside of Ian Graham. Is there a little bit of contact mid-corner between the pair, or was it cold rears? It's difficult to tell from that angle. Yes, there was a bit of contact, yes. So Ian Graham was able to just touch the tail end of Baker, and you can see John Baker, big heavy impact into the barriers. He's out of the car and okay, and Ian Graham spins back across the other way, but for John Baker, I'm afraid that was a big hit into the barriers. He is okay, but with that car stricken there, we have gone from safety car, I'm afraid, to a red flag. So with 12 minutes and 56 seconds remaining on the clock, because under safety car conditions that clock was still counting down, we do now stop the race, I'm afraid, and that will allow our fantastic Snetterton marshals to do all the requisite amount of clearing up of the incident, inspection of the barriers where that car made contact, of course, because that's the critical thing. Once the driver is out of the car and everything is okay, which he is, then we need to not only get the car out of harm's way, we need to check the circuit furniture, because that was head on into Armco barrier. If it has affected the barriers, then the decision needs to be made, Are we still okay to race? Do we need to do something to either replace those barriers or ensure that the performance of them isn't affected should another car make contact? And of course we've still got all the sweeping up to do as well, because there was lots of mud and grass, and there'll no doubt be some fluids and some lubricant and some coolant all down there on the circuits. All that needs doing at this stage. So the cars have come to a halt, and with the cars just waiting at pit lane entry, almost right at the entrance to pit lane. They're still on the grid, but of course they're not being ushered forward yet, because race control will be in conjunction and conversation with the timekeepers to understand as to what this re-grid will look like. I would imagine it will probably go back to the original grid, on the basis it was a first lap incident. So there we can see John Baker is out of the car. As we say, he is absolutely fine. These cars are built superbly strongly by the Focus Cup team, Simon Walton and the team up in the northeast of England. And whilst the car is heavily damaged, the barriers have done their job of stopping the car has done its job of protecting the driver, and our recovery crew go to work now to get that car out of harm's way. We can see over to the right hand side there the inspection of the barriers going on, where the circuit staff will ensure that if any remedial repairs are needed, they will be done. Now sometimes that is a case of leaving the barriers as is. Other times it can mean putting some horizontal braces or some diagonal braces behind those barriers. On other occasions it does mean replacing them, and on some occasions it is just a case of getting a telehandler, a JCB or something, just to lift the barriers back into a vertical position, because of course what we do need are barriers absolutely vertical. They cannot, if they've had a car impact them, be leaning down slightly, because that could act as a launch pad should another car go off in exactly the same position, which is highly unlikely. But we do need to ensure that motorsport, which is always dangerous, is as safe as we can possibly make it. So that they'll be inspecting those barriers, and decisions will be made there by those people with the experience that understand what has happened. We can't see from that angle anyway. Is there even any damage to those barriers? We can't tell from there because of the overlap in the barriers. So sweeping up being done, cars being ushered forward into what looks like their original grid position. Barriers look as though they've done a stunning job, actually. Can't see anything from that shot that we can see that suggests that there's a dint in the barrier, but that's not to say there isn't. So the sweeping up being done by our superb Snetterton marshals, who all give their time freely as volunteers so that they can enjoy motorsport. It's about as close as you can get to racing without the expense of competing. So marshals.co.uk is the website if you want to become one of our marshals at any of the Focus Cup rounds, or any other motorsport venue or circuit. We'd be delighted to have you. It doesn't have to be Focus Cup, doesn't have to be Snetterton, anywhere at all. You'd be more than welcome. marshals.co.uk. Sign up to a taster day. You get a guided tour in the morning. You'll go out onto Marshall's Post in the afternoon with an experienced team around you. And even on the taster day, when you get that guided tour, there'll be other people doing the same. So there's no need to be nervous. You'll have other people who are going through the same process at all. And our marshals do allow us to go motor racing and keep things on track, absolutely. So the cars have gridded up in the original order, because I can see that Mark McCann and Craig Appleton are there on the front row of the grid. Simon Walton I can just see behind on row 2, and in the diesel class, yes, I can see Neville Voss is there, and I can see that Jake Critchley is there. I cannot see an Adam Winter. Oh, Adam Winter is there. He's just at the back of the grid. He's not come through into position as yet. So Adam Winter in the grey car with the orange flash down it should get ushered forward, I would have thought, because he was originally due to be the fourth of the diesels on the grid. And you can see on the left hand side of the screen there's a big gap there between the first of the yellow cars that you can see and then the white one ahead of it. So there's a bit of shuffling forward being done. There is Cameron Ferraro Mackenzie being ushered into position, and then Adam Winter should move ahead of that and will line up in front of Ian Howard. So yeah, he's just working his way forward now. Then he'll turn left a bit, there we go, and slots himself into position. So John Baker's car, which, considering the impact, has stood up rather well actually, hasn't it? So been a difficult day for John Baker. So he came into this weekend lying third in the championship as a result of his best result being a second at Donington Park. Claimed to win earlier on this weekend, did John Baker as well, race 2 of the 4, but then retired from race 3, and I'm afraid was that retirement that brought about that red flag in race number 4. Back of the grid is Ian Graham, so the number 27 car, which was also involved, is still at the back of the grid at the moment, so he should be brought forward in front of all of the petrol class cars, I would have thought, providing he's got no damage following that light contact, which I think was what pitched John Baker into the spin. I don't think there was any malice or intent whatsoever, but the scrutineers are just having a look at the front end of that car just to check everything is okay, so that's what's going on with the 27. If they're happy and satisfied, he should be able to take up his rightful grid position. If there's any question mark over any damage of the car, then that will need rectifying in the pit lane, but hopefully the thumbs up is going to be given. So scrutineer chatting to driver, and where is Ian Graham now going to go? See again another quick look at that front end of the car. Scrutineer's doing a thorough job of just making sure that that car has not suffered any damage which is likely to affect its performance or cause danger to anybody else, and that car is ushered forward. Does look as though there is some damage to those barriers. You can see the telehandler has made its way there, and the circuit staff are working hard to try and rectify the damage to those barriers, so this could be a slightly longer delay than we initially thought, until they are happy that the barriers are where they need to be. And if needs be, what we do also see on occasions of them is bringing tyre stacks from elsewhere around the circuit and placing them in front of any damaged barriers, just to allow us to get back racing again. But they're working hard at the moment just to almost beat the dints out of the barriers to satisfy themselves that those barriers are going to be safe to go racing. So all of the cars and the drivers, the marshals, ourselves, all waiting patiently to get this race back underway, for which at the moment is still suggesting it's going to be a 15-minute restart. Now, the longer it takes to get the circuit back to racing, the shorter the race might become. But on the basis of the telehandlers already leaving the scene, I think the circuit staff are happy that whilst you can see there's still some damage to the barriers, that those barriers are in an upright position, that the gap between each rung of those barriers is sufficient so that we can go racing. So I think the circuit staff will leave the scene shortly, and then we'll get another formation lap underway before we then see the cars have another attempt at getting round 6 of the championship underway, and what looks like it is going to be still the full 15 minutes that was allocated. So that is good news for the likes of Lewis Clark, who of course is off the back of the diesel grid and was one of those cars, number 17, I said watch out for him, he should make progress. So had it been a shortened race, he'd have less opportunity to work his way through, but with the full duration, let's see what he can do. The one good thing is that unlike yesterday, if you were watching some of the racing here at Snetterton, we had a very tight timetable yesterday, which meant that towards the end of the day, races were compressed a little bit because we have to stop all racing activity by 6:30 here at Snetterton. And as you can see, 13-minute race, so they have chopped a couple of minutes off the race. So in reality, this formation lap, which is going to take 2 or 3 minutes extra as the second formation lap, it does just mean that we do have to chop the race. But yeah, we were timetabled to finish quite late yesterday. We were timetabled to finish at about 6:30 today, about 6:25, so we don't have a lot of time in hand, and there's still one further support race that needs to happen after this Focus Cup race. So it's going to be conscious by race control that everybody needs their track time, and Focus Cup have already had 3 races, whereas the other race that's scheduled to take place after this, I think they're only having 2 today, so we want to get their 2 races in as well. So off they go on their formation lap. 13-minute race, another attempt at getting the final race of Focus Cup underway here at Snetterton. And are we going to see Mark McCann claim a race win? Well, he has had a win already so far this season. That came at Donington Park. He finished 4th in the first race at Donington Park. He won the second race, but so far this weekend Mark McCann has not had a top 6 finish in Class 1 in the petrol class. So can he do that? In fact, no, he did. He had a top 6 finish earlier on today. I do correct that. He did finish in 6th place in race number 3, if memory serves me correctly. First 2 races of the weekend he wasn't inside the top 6, but he was in the race earlier on today. But he wants to get back to winning ways. Could we have a win for Simon Walton as well, the man behind the championship? He's had a 3rd, a 5th and a 4th, I think, so far in race 1, race 2, race 3 respectively. He was on the podium overall at Donington in the first of the races. He finished just off the podium in the second of the 2 races there, so he's had a good consistent start to the year, has he. And as for Craig Appleton, well, that's the green car, the light green car with the black flashes that starts on the front row of the grid. We didn't see Craig out, I don't think, at Donington Park, and this weekend he's finished in the top 6 in all of the races. 6th in the first race, 2nd in the second race, and 5th earlier on today. So let's see what he could do. Could he grab a win in the final stages of the weekend? So all of the Control Nankang tyres being weaved around by the drivers to try and get as much heat into them as they possibly can. It's the Nankang CRS, which is a slightly bigger tyre, slightly wider, slightly lower profile, sits on a bigger rim on the Class 1 cars. That's the mandatory fitment of tyre for the Class 1 cars. For the Class 2 cars, it's still a Nankang tyre, but it's not the CRS. It becomes the the NS2R tyre, which is a slightly narrower tyre. It's got a slightly higher profile. It sits on a 1-inch rim size lower, so a very slightly smaller tyre in the diesel class cars, Class 2, than there are on the Class 1s. But it's Nankang as the control tyre that everybody is utilising, so there's no difference between any of the Class 2 cars in terms of tyres, no difference between any of the Class 1 cars in terms of tyres. They all run on exactly the same ones, and you do get those tyres as part of the deal as well when you sign up to a weekend of racing. You get 4 good tyres for the weekend, and spare used tyres are in hand in the case of any damaged tyres or punctures as well. So Mark McCann, just to confirm, is that black car with the yellow flashes to it that sits on pole. The light green car with the black flashes to it is Craig Appleton. The black car with the light blue flashes to it is Simon Walton, who's going to line up 3rd on the grid. It's white with Union Jack livery to it on the ABS supported car of Simon Langford that's there in 4th place. Ian Mitchell's car is next up, which is number 81, which is largely sort of red, black and white, and then Annie Topley is in the Power Maxed colours, white with black and yellow that you can just see there. That is next up. Those are the colours on the front 3 rows of the grid. They have completed their 2nd formation lap following this red flag. And of course we will have that one gap on the grid where we should have had in 9th place John Baker. So there's 8 cars now in the Class 1, and everybody else is in Class 2, which is the original class that was introduced when Focus Cup was introduced first into the UK way back in 2019. Was the first year that we had Focus Cup racing, whereas the petrol class was only introduced last year, Class 1. So final row of the grid coming into position, and we can see Sarah Hall comes to a halt now at the tail end of the order. Red lights will come on the gantry, and we'll have another go at getting round 6 of the 2026 Focus Cup Championship underway here at Snetterton. Slightly shorter race, scheduled for 15 minutes. It will be 13 for the restart because of the red flag. And when the lights go out, it's not a bad start from Mark McCann, but it's a very good start from Craig Appleton, who might be leading the charge up towards Redgate Corner. The light green car got the better start, but he's on the outside line for the first corner, which is a right-hander. Craig Appleton tries to turn in but can't because Mark McCann is there, so he's got to satisfy himself with what is 2nd position, and this time through all of the Class 1 cars are safely through the first corner up towards the braking area for the Wilson hairpin. There's a tap on the coattails of Mark McCann as Craig Appleton just shows in the bumper a little bit, just a little nudge between the pair of them, but everybody is safely in the petrol class, at least Class 1, through the first corner as they sprint their way down towards the left-hander at Palmer for the first time. Ali Topley is up into 3rd and has got the jump on Simon Walton, and Ali Topley has come from 6th on the original grid as well, so the champion from last year in the diesel class up to the petrol class and already a race winner is now up into 3rd position at the wheel of the Power Max car. Simon Walton sits there in 4th, Ian Mitchell 5th, Simon Langford in 6th place, Ian Graham and Shields Bergstrom are next up. And then when we look in the background of the shot, I'll try and pick up who is leading the diesel class at this stage. It looks as though it's Neville Voss at the wheel of the black car with the gold flashes, number 24, the pole sitter in the diesel class that has hung on to the Class 2 lead in the early stages. Cars just sprinting their way out of Williams, tyres squealing away. Somebody runs very, very, very wide indeed coming out of Williams, all over the grass, and I'm afraid that was Craig Appleton that ran very wide indeed coming out of Williams. So the light green car has now dropped its way down through the order, and that has allowed our race leader to pull away to a degree. So out of the Brundle and Nelson complex, Mark McCann leads the way from Ali Topley. Simon Walton is third, Ian Mitchell fourth, Simon Langford there in fifth place, Craig Appleton down to sixth following his rallying crossing moment at Williams, but he's now working his way around the outside at Simon Langford as they head round through Coram. Neville Voss leads the diesel category still at this stage at the wheel of the number 24 car. He's had mixed fortunes this weekend with a issue precluding him from being involved in the results in yesterday's race, but he leads from Macaulay Underwood in Class 2, the diesel category. Out of Williams they'll go. Andrew Mitchell is next up, then Adam Winter, and then the next of the cars is going to be the car of Cameron Ferrero Mackenzie, I believe. Yes, it is. I think so. He comes over the start-finish line. Let's have a quick look. No, it's not. It is Jake Critchley. So through they'll go. Class 2 cars provided some great racing earlier on today, and you can see just how close it is in Class 2. That black particulate smoke coming out of the diesel engine cars whilst they're under full power, and Macaulay Underwood looking as though he's trying to gain a place here in the braking area towards the Wilson hairpin. Can't get through though, so he still remains where he is. And there is number 17. I said watch out for Lewis Clark. Lewis Clark gained places on that lap and has carved his way through the order, and there's problems, I'm afraid, for Charlie Hall, who is slowing down out on circuit. So the number 11 car slowing down. Macaulay Underwood runs wide coming out of Palmer. That drops him into the clutches of Jake Critchley. So the diesel engine class still again providing some brilliant squabbles. Neville Voss leads the way from Andrew Mitchell, then Adam Winter, then Macaulay Underwood, followed by Jake Critchley. So it's sort of 5 for the lead in the diesel category. Abby Walton, I think, was 6th in the diesel category, but she's just lost out to Lewis Clark, who I think fed his way through at Agostini that time through. So I think Lewis Clark off the back of the diesel grid is now up into 6th position, I believe. We've had a change in the lead. Ali Topley's gone through to pick up the lead of the race. Didn't see where it happened, but Mark McCann no longer leads, and it is Ali Topley that has now picked up the lead of the race. Already twice a race winner so far this weekend. Won the first race of the weekend, won race 3 earlier on today. He leads the way at this stage. His first season of racing in the petrol class, Class 1 for the Focus Cup. And this weekend he has had a brilliant weekend. His best result at Donington, the first weekend of racing, was 6th in the second race. Well, he's already got 2 wins under his belt. Could be looking for a 3rd one here now that he's picked up the win and picked up the lead of the race from Mark McCann. Let's just have a quick look. We didn't see it at the time as to how he picked up the lead of the race, but let's just have a quick look. Up towards the braking area for Agostini. He jinks out from behind Mark McCann, has the inside line, and effortlessly eases his way through. Mark McCann knew the inevitable was happening, didn't put up too much resistance, so that was how Ali Topley picked up the lead of the race. Ian Graham and Shields Bergstrom still fighting away over 7th and 8th place in Class 1. The leaders in the meantime are working their way down towards Palmer. Ali Topley, having picked up the lead of the race, is also the fastest lap of the race. 2 minutes 12.336 from him. And along the straight now, Ian Mitchell ran very wide coming out of Palmer there. That's going to drop him away from Simon Walton and has placed him into the clutches a little bit more of Craig Appleton. But Craig Appleton was, I think, concentrating his mirrors on what's going on behind, because Simon Langford is attacking him, and Craig Appleton, I think, missed his braking point a little bit heading up towards Agostini. He braked a bit late, and is he going to hang on to the place? Yes, he does. Simon Langford cannot quite unpick Craig Appleton in the number 5 car from 5th position. So the order there still remains the same. As for the diesel category, Neville Voss still leading that in 9th place overall from Andrew Mitchell. And then next up in the diesel class is going to be Adam Winter. But they are all getting caught by the number 17 car of Lewis Clark, who is pretty much with that lead group of diesels now. So that's well worth keeping an eye on. The dark green and orange number 17 car has caught everybody ahead, largely because they're all squabbling as well. The other car I want to try and work out where he's in diesel is Macaulay Underwood, because he's finished 4th in every race so far this weekend. Where is he? He's 4th in the diesel category at the moment. Now there is Lewis Clark. He is now attacking great Jake Critchley for position. They've gone past Adam Winter. So Lewis Clark with a stunning drive to carve his way through the order after the disappointment of retirement earlier on. He has caught the front pack of diesels. the Class 2 machines. It's not being led by Neville Voss anymore, so the lead of Class 2 has now gone in the general direction of, I think it was Adam Winter that had picked up the lead. Simon Langford finally sneaks his way through, gains a place over Ian Mitchell. So that is Ian Mitchell, who was 4th, now down into, I think, something like 5th, if not 6th place. And Lewis Clark isn't done with gaining places yet, because the next car he's coming up against is Neville Voss, who was the pole sitter in Class 2 and the early race leader, and retirement, I'm afraid, for Adam Winter. That's such a shame for Adam. He was a race winner in the first race of the weekend, but the Swan Flight car, the number 4 car, out of this final race of the weekend. He'd had 2 podiums, a first and a third. He was hoping for another, but it's not to be. As for Lewis Clark, is he going to get Neville Voss on the run towards Ritchie's? No, he doesn't. But can he get the overlap? Yes, he can. He has the inside line coming out of Ritchie's corner, and he's going to go through to pick up the position. For Neville Voss, he probably couldn't quite see what was happening there, because if you look at his mirror on the driver's side, it's all bent out. So Neville Voss will not be able to really see what's going on the right-hand side of the car. So it just goes to show how close the racing has been in Focus Cup. The mirror is pointing all strange directions at this stage. Yeah, it's just, you can see it's nowhere near looking at where it ought to be looking, Neville Voss's mirror. So as soon as Lewis Clark got to the inside, Neville didn't know where he was, so had to leave room to avoid any contact. So Lewis Clark is now going to be in something like 3rd position in Class 2. Ian Howard very decisively dives up the inside of Kevin Taylor-Beebe, and that will now move him up to 7th in Class 2 at this stage. He was the race winner in Class 2 earlier on, but Kevin Taylor-Beebe is quicker coming out of the corner, and therefore I think will re-inherit the place. So that's a good little fight between those two. As I say, he did claim the win earlier on today, Ian Howard. We've had 3 different winners out of the 3 races in Class 2 for the diesel engine machines. Craig Appleton in 5th place, still has Simon Langford behind him in 6th overall with 4 minutes to go. The diesel class, by the way, is now being led by Andrew Mitchell in the YouTube car, the number 95 car, heading down towards us. 2nd in diesel in Class 2 is going to be Macaulay Underwood, but look who's behind him, Lewis Clark, who was right at the back of the grid. And remember, this is a 13-minute race, not a 15 as was originally scheduled, so where can Lewis Clark end up with arguably a lap shorter in terms of race duration than otherwise there would have been? He's 3rd of Class 2 cars at the moment. Can he get himself up into 2nd, because he is hot on the heels of Macaulay Underwood? So he has been Mr. Consistency so far this weekend, 4th, 4th and 4th in Class 2 in the 3 races that we have had. He's running at the moment 2nd in Class 2, which would delight him, because that is his best result of the season so far. He was 2nd in Class 2 in the opening race of the season at Donington, but can he hang on to it, because he's got a 3 times Focus Cup champion weaving his way behind him at this stage. Lewis Clark's not going to try anything on the way into Ritchie's. Can he unlock the door on the way out? You can see him bounce over the curbs. Macaulay Underwood is trying to defend. Lewis Clark thinks better of it into the braking area for Wilson. So for the moment still has to satisfy himself that 3rd is as good as it's going to get, and all of this is somewhat helping the leader of Class 2, which is Andrew Mitchell, who's on fine form at Donington with 2 wins, and has been on fine form this weekend as well, a 3rd, a 2nd and a 2nd, and he leads in this one, so it could mean that he's been on the podium in all of the races so far this season if he can hang on to a podium spot in this one. Well, at the moment he's leading Class 2. Ali Topley has pulled away from Mark McCann in the lead of the race. The lead advantage was almost up to 4 seconds at the start of this particular lap. There's a further 2.5 seconds back from Mark McCann to Simon Walton, and then Simon Langford now ahead of Craig Appleton. So that's a shuffle in the order for 4th and 5th position. So the ABS-backed car of Simon Langford, now having started this lap in 5th, now up into 4th place. Craig Appleton will try and fight back on the exit of Murray's, and they'll be heading on to, I think, their final lap this time through. Yeah, the laps are taking about 2 minutes 12 for the Class 1 cars, and there's only about 1 minute and 45 left as Ali Topley came over the start-finish line. Craig Appleton got anything left he can throw at Simon Langford? Nothing going as they head round through the right-hander at Ritchie. Simon Langford gets very sideways, has to absolutely plant his foot onto the throttle to pull the front end or front-wheel drive car out of the slide, but that's all the opportunity that Craig Appleton needs at the Wilson hairpin. He brakes as late as he can. He almost runs wide through the corner, but he's alongside. He's got the inside line at Palmer, but Simon Langford might just brave it out here and hang on to the place. Yes, he does. He braves it all the way around the outside at Palmer. Be careful you don't run wide on the exit, and they're still going to be side by side as they head down in towards Agostini. But I think Craig Appleton has finally got the job done. Yeah, he's got his nose ahead as they head in towards the braking area for Agostini. And Simon Langford is not going to have another nibble as they head in towards the left-hand hairpin at Agostini. He might try and get the overlap on the way out, but he's not going to get there because Craig Appleton is clean off the corner. So through Hamilton, he'll have to sit behind. Good little fight this is between these two drivers, fighting over 4th and 5th position. So Craig Appleton has had a 6th, a 2nd and a 5th in the 3 races that we've had so far in that order. For Simon Langford, he's had a 4th, a 6th and a 3rd so far this weekend. In this final race of the weekend, they are very evenly matched. Ali Topley in towards the braking area for Brundle and Nelson for the final time. There's been a spin for Abby Walton. That is at the first corner, which is Ritchie's, and she will get going again. But for Ali Topley, this has been a solid weekend of racing from him. Not off the podium in any of the races. His worst result is a 3rd. And he's going to come home with 3 wins from Snetterton because he's only just got one more corner to deal with, and that is the braking area for Murray's. The Power Max car in the hands of the Class 2 champion from last year, who steps up to Class 1 and the petrol category. Ali Topley is going to claim his 3rd win of the weekend out of the 4 races that we've had in the 2026 Focus Cup. Ali Topley comes through to claim the win and take the checkered flag. It's going to be Mark McCann that comes through to finish in 2nd place, his first podium of the weekend, and gets him back to where he needs to be. Simon Walton comes through to finish in 3rd place. Craig Appleton and Simon Langford had a great fight over 4th and 5th place, but it's Appleton from Langford, and it's going to be Ian Mitchell that finishes in 5th position, albeit Shields Bergstrom is giving him a thing or two to think about on the run to the line, and by a 10th of a second Ian Mitchell does get there. Shields Bergstrom, the man from Milwaukee, comes through to finish in 7th place. Ian Graham is there in 8th place, and 9th will be the battle for the lead of the diesel category. That is going the way of Andrew Mitchell, who has enough daylight between himself and the squabbling pair behind, which is Macaulay Underwood, still under this huge pressure from Lewis Clark, who is trying to make amends after that retirement earlier on, giving him a poor grid position for this one, and he's going to prise the door open as they head round through Coreham. Macaulay Underwood is on the outside line through Coreham. Through goes Lewis Clark, and it looks as though he's going to pick up 2nd in Class 2, because the win in Class 2 is going to go the way of car number 95, Andrew Mitchell. And who's going to finish 2nd in Class 2? It is going to be Lewis Clark, who's still going to be chased towards the checkered flag by Macaulay Underwood. So through goes Andrew Mitchell. He claims the win in Class 2 for the diesel cars, and 2nd in the diesel category on the run to the line is going to be Lewis Clark by 0.2 of a second from Macaulay Underwood, who finishes just outside of the top 10 and will complete the diesel podium. So Andrew Mitchell does mean then, with that race win for him, we have had 4 different winners out of the 4 races in Class 2 in the diesel category, compared to the petrol class, where we've had just 2 different winners out of the 4 races, and Ali Topley claiming 3 of those. So diesel and Class 2 really has been a mixed bag for everybody this weekend. So well done to Andrew Mitchell. Solid weekend for him. Keeps up his championship aspirations in Class 2 as well, because he is the championship leader coming into this weekend, and he's been very consistent. Ali Topley claims the win, his 3rd of the weekend, with Mark McCann in 2nd place and Simon Walton in 3rd. Then it was Craig Appleton in 4th place, ahead of Simon Langford in 5th position. Ian Mitchell and Shields Bergstrom, and Ian Graham completes the Class 1 cars in 8th place. 9th place, Andrew Mitchell. He claimed Class 2 for the diesel engine cars, ahead of the charging Lewis Clark, who came off the back of the grid to finish 10th overall and 2nd in the category. Macaulay Underwood was next up, ahead of Neville Voss, who finished in 12th place. Then it was Jake Critchley from Ian Howard, followed by Kevin Taylor-Beebe, and then the first of the Halls, which was Rich Hall, ahead of then Charlie Hall. Abby Walton, despite her spin, finished in 18th place. Mark Reed finished in 19th place, and Matt Croft completed the top 20. Then as we head outside of the top 20, that's where we get our retirees, I'm afraid. Adam Winter was a retiree, and we also saw retirement for Cameron Ferraro Mackenzie. And that's it from the Focus Cup Championship. Ali Topley making his way back around the circuit, 3 times victorious this weekend, and it was a first win here at Snetterton for the man who leads the championship in Class 2, the diesel category, which is Andrew Mitchell. 4 different winners in the diesel category this weekend. Bodes well, doesn't it, when we head to Alton Park next time out for 2 races up there on the 20th of June. So thanks for joining us this weekend. From everybody here at Snetterton and Focus Cup, Onside Productions, and myself, Mark Werrell. We'll catch you next time. Goodbye.